The best investment you can make as a leader is in yourself and your team. Join Maxwell Leadership for Day to Grow, a full-day conference in Orlando, Florida, featuring some of today's most sought-after experts and thought leaders.
I don't want to be a motivational speaker. I want to be a motivational teacher. You see, a motivational speaker makes you feel good, but the next day you don't know why. A motivational teacher makes you feel good, but the next day you know why, because they give you resources and tools and practice.
If you're passionate about personal growth, development, your team, and growing them, you do not want to miss Day to Grow.
Malcolm Gladwell has been called one of the 100 most influential people in the world by Time magazine. Since becoming a staff writer for The New Yorker in 1996, he has written 7 New York Times bestsellers, and in 2011, he was appointed to Canada's second highest order of honor. 4-time Olympian Shantae Lowe is a world record-holding high jumper and gold medalist who has inspired millions with her story of triumphing over adversity on platforms like ESPN and the Oprah Winfrey Network. Chris Robinson is an international speaker and executive coach who leads a team of more than 50,000 speakers, trainers, and coaches worldwide.
The masses lead lives of quiet desperation, but they go to the grave with their song inside. It is my vision that not a single person that can hear my voice goes to the grave with that song inside.
John Gordon has written 15 bestsellers, including The Energy Bus, The Power of Positive Leadership, and The Carpenter. His clients include Dell, Publix, Southwest Airlines, and several NFL, NBA, and MLB coaches and championship teams. Michael Jr. brings laughter and encouragement to audiences all over the world as he inspires audiences to discover and activate their purpose.
So it started out, people would ask weird questions. Michael Jr., what should I do here? What should I do there? And I realized we're asking the wrong question, because they're asking what, but the question they really should be asking is why, because when you understand your why, you have more options for what, but your why never changes.
International speaker Valerie Burton is the founder of the Coaching and Positive Psychology Institute, as well as a best-selling author of 13 books coaching women and ambitious individuals toward their best lives.
If we want to be resilient, we need to be as supportive of ourselves as we are of the people we care about. You see, we are often far more kind to our friends and to our family members than we are to ourselves.
Serial entrepreneur and business expert Brandon Dawson serves as CEO and managing partner of Grant Cardone's business consulting firm Cardone Ventures. He has spent the last 30 years in the business space, starting, scaling, and selling businesses, and now helps organizations of all sizes reach their goals.
Come and see us on Day to Grow. I will promise you this. You come and bring your team, and at the end of the day, you'll come up and shake my hand and say, one of the best days I've ever invested in for myself and for my team. I'll see you there.
Thank you so very much. We're gonna have some fun and stuff. We'll probably laugh for a minute. Then I can get to introduce this one dude. So we're gonna have some fun. Not too long ago, well, it was probably 3 years ago, I'm in a position where I could hang out with John and we text and stuff and we're all cool and stuff. And I actually sent him a text. I pulled it up. It was funny. I pulled this text up. It says, I said, hey, John, this is me randomly texting him. Hey, John, just last week, this was Queen Elizabeth. This is when she was alive, so this is a little longer. Queen Elizabeth, Jay-Z, and Oprah begged me to make the forward to my book. But I said, no, I'm saving it for John Maxwell. So I send that text, like, yeah, this is gonna be dope, to which he replied, haha, I don't have your number programmed on my phone. Who is this? That stuff was hilarious to me. So, but he did it though. I appreciate that dude so much. It's amazing. I'm super honored to be here. I can't even tell you. I realize that I have a different way of thinking. My wife points this out to me, but most people know that. In fact, that's what I'm known for, is thinking differently. But where it really came from is when I was a kid, I used to struggle with my reading. I'm talking about struggle. Like I read fine now, like the signs over the door to say excite. I can read that stuff. But I used to struggle with my reading. I couldn't sound words out phonetically. My mind would scramble. I have to look at the words differently. I look at the font size, the color, the positioning, what's in front of it, what's behind it, how many people responded to it. I actually came up with 7 different ways to look at a word to determine what that word was. Then I got really good at it, to the point in high school, people didn't know I wasn't really reading. I was just working it out really, really fast. Now as an adult, I read just fine, but I still have this ability to look at words and people and situations 7 different ways almost immediately. In fact, it's the primary place that I pull my comedy from. So random jokes would just pop up in my head out of nowhere. 2 days ago, I'm thinking, did God give chickens wings just for us? Like, they don't even use them. I don't drink 2% milk because I don't know what the rest of it is made out of. That's a math joke. There's 97% unaccounted for. Some of y'all suffering right now. Like, do he know? I was put into a class when I was a kid. There was a special ed classroom. And my teacher, the fast version of this is my teacher would never really check my grades. She wouldn't check them. In fact, one time she said to me, she said, why don't you skip school sometime? You're never going to be anything anyways. So all of this stuff was happening to me. I'm struggling with my reading, all this stuff going on, but I look at it almost as if it was been practiced, because now I have this ability to see things and find funny. I'm watching TV. There's a commercial on. You've seen it before. It's an old lady. She fell down. She's like, help, I'm falling, and I can't get up. First thing I'm thinking, why don't the cameraman help her? He right there. I went into this business, and it was clear they did not want to serve me because of the color of my skin. I'm not going back to that tanning salon. Listen, the only reason I went into a tanning salon is because I wanted to come out of a tanning salon. I timed it perfect, too. I was walking out, these 2 little white ladies were walking in. I was like, yo, they didn't calibrate. They didn't calibrate. But I can snap on beat now, so that part was for me. So people will ask what makes me laugh. Michael Jr., what makes you laugh? Well, what makes me laugh really is awkwardness. I really like awkwardness. Did you feel it just now? It is the best. I'll look for it. I'll get on an elevator when there's like 6 or 7 people in there. I'll let the door close behind me, and I won't turn around. They're like, what floor? I'm like, it doesn't matter. Then I'll say something random like it's Tuesday, but it's really Friday. And then everyone gets off on the next floor. Then I just giggle my way to the top. And then I go to the stairwell, and them same people from the elevator. And when I see them, I'm like, it's Thursday. And they go right back down the stairs. So much fun. Here's something. You got to do this. You have got to do. You ever go on a job interview and partway through you realize, I don't want to work here. This is a great opportunity to enjoy some awkwardness. You don't want the job anyway. They're going to ask you some questions. So tell me a little bit about yourself. This should be your response. Hey, why don't you go first? In fact, where do you see me in 5 years? Because they ask you those weird questions. They ask you questions like, tell me about a time you had a disagreement with a coworker and tell me how you worked it out. This should be your response. So here's what happened. My colleague took credit for some work I did. I did all the work, they took all the credit, never even mentioned me. So here's what I did. I walked over to their cubicle, fast forward, here I am. That's what happened, that's what happened. So me and my wife right now are doing a tour called Funny How Marriage Works, where we're helping people with marriages. And listen, I'm not a marriage expert, only been married once, right? But what we're sharing with people, and I want to share with you as well, because there's a lot of married people here, is one of the cool nuggets that God has kind of shown us through this marriage thing is there's a tool that you have that is so powerful, people just don't know how to use it yet. So I'm going to show it to you, and it's amazingly powerful. And you're not going to think it's powerful. You're going to be like, no, I don't even want that, because you try to avoid it. The tool is this thing called conflict. Conflict is gold. You don't understand. It is gold. People think what they need is more information to get the marriage they want or to get the career they want. You don't need more information. What you actually need to understand is how to utilize conflict. Watch this. I'm going to show it to you. So I have 5 kids, and I travel a lot, so I can see them all. All right. So what just took place? What just happened? You already have some information about Michael Jr. So what I did, I decided to add more information. I said, so I have 5 kids. You're like, yep, that makes sense. I heard he got 5 kids. It's great. And I travel a lot. Yes, that's true. Of course, he's here. He's traveling all the time. I'm adding to your information. But then I introduced the conflict. I said, I travel a lot so I could see them all. And because you were curious, through the conflict, you got to the next portion, which was revelations exposed by your laughter. Without the conflict, there's no revelation. There's no laughter. You don't get the revelation without the conflict. I'll show it to you again. So I have 5 kids, and I love them. See? Nothing. You're just staring at me. You know why? Because that's just information. And what you really need is to understand the conflict and how to utilize it for your advantage. At the risk of confusing you a little more, because I can't go way into this, another thing we like to teach people is in marriage, you shouldn't compromise. And that's always the response I get. Let me ask this question. If a bridge was compromised, would you drive over it? Would you like to have a compromised outfit? What about a compromised computer? So why would you purposely live in a compromised marriage? In fact, so here, let me say this. Compromise is like a spare tire, right? It can get you to the next destination, but it's not good for the long haul. Some of y'all got 4 donuts on your marriage right now. Wonder why the ride is so rough. Because here's what I learned about compromise. Whenever you compromise, whatever you compromised on, you can't really talk about that thing anymore. You gotta sweep it under the rug. But now there's a lump in your rug and you wonder why your spouse is tripping. And then the more lumps you get in your rugs, the less you can talk about. And then you start using phrases like, we just don't seem to have anything to talk about anymore. But then you go to work. With that person, you can talk about anything. I'm gonna jump back into some jokes. So I'm a hugger. I love hugging people. I'm a hugger. Fellas, we hug, right? That just got weird. No, fellas, we hug, but the reason it got weird is because, fellas, we hug, but we don't talk about how we hug. Like, we got rules, but none of us talk about the rules. Like, okay, I'm gonna share some of the rules with you. Rule number 1, when men hug, rule number 1 is the hug can only last 1.4 seconds. And you know the hug is over because rule number 2, every time we hug, what we do? We tap out. Tap, tap, release. Nobody taught you to tap out. You just know you're supposed to tap out. Tap, tap, release. Fellas, you ever tap out and they don't release? I'm like, tap, tap, bruh. Tap, tap. I was doing Morse code on this dude back. I tapped him so hard, he burped. I'm like, dude, you just burped. You just burped. You burped, man. Another rule we have is left hand under, right hand over, tap out, release. That's the rule. I don't care if you're left-handed, I don't care if you're from Australia, it's the same rule. It's left hand under, right hand over, tap out, release. Some of the fellas looking confused right now. Let me show it to you. You ever have a dude try to go under? He can't go under. He go under, you gotta go over. Now y'all slow dancing. That's all you're doing. You're just slow dancing. Turn on the...
The best investment you can make as a leader is in yourself and your team. Join Maxwell Leadership for Day to Grow, a full-day conference in Orlando, Florida, featuring some of today's most sought-after experts and thought leaders.
I don't want to be a motivational speaker. I want to be a motivational teacher. You see, a motivational speaker makes you feel good, but the next day you don't know why. A motivational teacher makes you feel good, but the next day you know why, because they give you resources and tools and practice.
If you're passionate about personal growth, development, your team, and growing them, you do not want to miss Day to Grow.
Malcolm Gladwell has been called one of the 100 most influential people in the world by Time magazine. Since becoming a staff writer for The New Yorker in 1996, he has written 7 New York Times bestsellers, and in 2011, he was appointed to Canada's second highest order of honor. 4-time Olympian Shantae Lowe is a world record-holding high jumper and gold medalist who has inspired millions with her story of triumphing over adversity on platforms like ESPN and the Oprah Winfrey Network. Chris Robinson is an international speaker and executive coach who leads a team of more than 50,000 speakers, trainers, and coaches worldwide.
The masses lead lives of quiet desperation, but they go to the grave with their song inside. It is my vision that not a single person that can hear my voice goes to the grave with that song inside.
John Gordon has written 15 bestsellers, including The Energy Bus, The Power of Positive Leadership, and The Carpenter. His clients include Dell, Publix, Southwest Airlines, and several NFL, NBA, and MLB coaches and championship teams. Michael Jr. brings laughter and encouragement to audiences all over the world as he inspires audiences to discover and activate their purpose.
So it started out, people would ask weird questions. Michael Jr., what should I do here? What should I do there? And I realized we're asking the wrong question. Because they're asking what, but the question they really should be asking is why. Because when you understand your why, you have more options for what, but your why never changes.
International speaker Valerie Burton is the founder of the Coaching and Positive Psychology Institute, as well as a best-selling author of 13 books coaching women and ambitious individuals toward their best lives.
If we want to be resilient, we need to be as supportive of ourselves as we are of the people we care about. You see, we are often far more kind to our friends and to our family members than we are to ourselves.
Serial entrepreneur and business expert Brandon Dawson serves as CEO and managing partner of Grant Cardone's business consulting firm Cardone Ventures. He has spent the last 30 years in the business space, starting, scaling, and selling businesses, and now helps organizations of all sizes reach their goals.
Come and see us on Day to Grow. I will promise you this. You come and bring your team, and at the end of the day, you'll come up and shake my hand and say, one of the best days I've ever invested in for myself and for my team. I'll see you there.
Years ago in Birmingham, Alabama, Chris Hodges was starting a new church called Church of the Highlands. Knowing that he needed equipping, Chris began reading and listening to the wisdom of John Maxwell. And a few years later, he began to be mentored by John. Under Chris's leadership, Church of the Highlands has been consistently ranked as one of the largest and most influential churches in the United States. Chris knows well that the way we raise up others will determine the scale of our influence. He runs an organization called Grow that resources and equips leaders to reach their highest potential in order to do just that. Ready to give leaders the tools they need to forge a new future. Chris Hodges.
All right. Come on, everybody. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You're so kind. All right, give your neighbor a high five. Tell them it looks like you've lost a little weight. Come on, tell them. It's my favorite thing to hear. It's never true, but I love hearing it anyway. Speaking of goals, I set a goal this year to lose 20 pounds. I'm happy to report right here in the middle of March, I only have 30 pounds to go. Come on, somebody, right? So, hey, are you guys having a good time, everybody? Yeah? Good. Can we thank John, Mark, Chris, come on, and the whole team for an amazing day today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Come on, give them a good hand, everybody. So none of the speakers compare notes, and it's amazing how the theme has just landed today, because I'm going to talk a little bit about goals and dreams and things as well, but I'm going to share it with you in the context of how John has personally mentored me. I am very blessed that I've known this man for a long time, and I have been personally mentored by him, and I'm very grateful for that. But I want to tell you a story that happened in 2007. So 16 years ago, John turned 60 years old. By the way, I turned 60 this year. I'm celebrating my 60 years old and 40 years of ministry this year. Come on, everybody, right? And when John turns 60, this is classic John Maxwell. You actually ought to learn something from this. He picked 60 people to celebrate with, divided them among 12 events, one every month, just to celebrate all year long. So I was July. Okay, I got invited to the July celebration along with 6 others, so 8 total. And we went to Ireland and played golf together. We called ourselves the Ireland 8. And so anyway, it was a fantastic trip, and I had a lot of fun. On his 61st birthday, so the next year, 2008, John called the Ireland 8 and said, hey, why don't you guys come down to South Florida and let's all get back together, and we're going to play golf again and just be together because we had such a great time. Thought it was great. So go to John's house. We're having dinner. Next morning, we're all going to go play golf. We were headed to the hotel. This is a true story. It's about 10 o'clock at night, and I'm an early to bed kind of a guy. And John says, hey, let's go see a movie. And I'm really not the movie type, but it's his party, so we can do what he wants to. And so we went to this movie, and it happened to be The Bucket List. Yeah, so if you haven't seen The Bucket List movie, it's the story of these 2 guys who have terminal illnesses. Of course, one of them's wealthy, and he said, look, let's make a list of everything we want to do before we kick the bucket. I'll finance the whole thing. And by the way, I can't really recommend the movie. It's got some parts anyway, but it's got some stuff in it. But that's another story. But the moral of the story was really awesome, because they, of course, discovered that all of the trivial things like racing cars, jumping out of airplanes was not the thing that satisfied, fulfilled them the most. It was the more meaningful things, and actually ended with a great story. But in classic John Maxwell style, and Mark was a part of this. Mark Cole was part of the Ireland 8. We were headed out of the movie theater, getting ready to all go to our hotel rooms. And John said, how many of you guys have a written bucket list? So not just dreams, not just goals, but you've actually put it on paper, and none of us had. He said, well, here's your assignment. I want you to go to your hotel rooms. Before we play golf tomorrow, you're going to come back with at least 5 items on your bucket list. We're going to talk about it, and then we'll go play golf. So this is John in every way, by the way. If you had the pleasure of being with him as much as I do, it's not just pleasure. You're always taking notes. It doesn't matter. You're at dinner, you're taking notes. It's always happening. So we all went back to our hotel rooms, and I had a hard time coming up with 5. In fact, one of those was I would celebrate an anniversary in Italy with my wife, Tammy, who's here. We've been married 37 years now. And well, thank you. Thank you very much. You want to thank her. And so anyway, and we have 5 kids. And I know that's a lot, by the way. Everybody always comments on how many kids I have. And I tell them I don't have 5 kids because I like kids. I have 5 kids because I like my wife. Come on, everybody, right? So that's a different conference, but I have something to say. Now we have 8 grandkids, but anyway, I wanted to celebrate an anniversary in Italy. I wanted to go to the Holy Land. We had started this church planting network where we give the model of how to start a brand new church away. We had this goal at that time to plant 2,000 new churches across America. We are right now at 1,100 of them that we've helped start all across America. Yeah, and so it's a lot of fun. Anyway, had this list, but one of the things I put on the list is going to surprise you, okay? And I know you already heard commentary on the whole dreaming big thing, like be careful about that, and I totally agree, by the way. But this is going to sound like a big dream that I actually thought was actually very doable, and it was in my heart to do. And that is, like Valerie, I actually lived 7 years in Colorado Springs, 1 mile away from the Air Force Academy. And so every day walked out, saw these jets flying, people jumping out of airplanes and all of this. And so, and I knew a lot of people that were generals and colonels and, the brass in the military. And I've always had this dream to actually fly in one of those F-16s, like a supersonic military jet. And I'd done enough research to find out that they actually had a civilian ride program. Of course, you had to be famous, like a senator or a congressman or something like that. But I thought, I'm going to put it on the list. I knew I had little chance of happening, but there was a civilian ride program. Well, I put it on the list only for a few years later for that civilian ride program got discontinued. Yeah, I know, and it's sad. And then you have this tension, by the way, anytime you do any type of a goals list or a bucket list or anything that you just hope to do with your life, you've got to grapple with the tension of, do you put things on there that you know have absolutely no chance of happening? And I'll just go ahead and tell you the answer is yes, because you'll always limit yourself. I mean, you'll always limit yourself to what actually can happen. So fast forward 7 years later, I'm actually doing a series in our church over the summer called Dream Again, because there's a lot of stuff in the Bible about dreams. In fact, this is pretty interesting. I don't even know if you know this, John, but the same word in the Hebrew, the language that the Old Testament is written in, the same word for health is the same word for dream. Like they're so closely related. So to be healthy is to dream, and to dream is to be healthy. And I just want you to think about that just for a moment, of how healthy your life can be whenever you're dreaming. And so anyway, I was teaching this series. There's so much in the Bible on it and having a good time. And I tell the story of that I just shared with you, the bucket list story. And I talked about, I have things on my list that I know have absolutely no chance of happening, like I'd always wanted to fly in this F-16 program. And I said this publicly on stage, and this can never happen because they discontinued the program. Well, sitting right in the middle of our broadcast location were two full bird colonels, and they looked at each other and they said, man, let's see if we can make this happen for PC. That's what they call me, PC for Pastor Chris. And so I don't know this is happening, but for the next 5 months, I am being vetted through the Pentagon. I'm happy to report I made it, everybody. I am standing here. So anyway, they're vetting me through the Pentagon. They get special clearance or special permission and I don't know this is happening, but they show up at our Christmas services, and we do a boatload of Christmas services, a lot of them, like over 100 services, and we have over 100,000 people come through our church for Christmas. And they show up at our Christmas service that year in 2015, and they're in full military dress, these two full bird colonels, and they have a letter in their hand. I can see this formal letter in their hand, and before they say anything to me, I figure it out. Like, oh, are you serious? Is this getting ready to happen? And they said, Pastor Chris, on behalf of the Secretary of Defense and the United States government, we formally invite you to participate in a civilian ride program on an F-16 jet if you can pass the physical. Like, what else you got? That's obvious. That's going to happen, right? Don't laugh so hard. It hurts my feelings. Okay. And then if you go through the training, and I said, what's the training? And he said, well, it's ejection seat training. It's how to die. And so anyway, I was like, okay, I'll do that. And so anyway, so in February of 2016, I actually flew in an F-16, a Red Tail, which is a famous brand of the F-16s. Yeah, and you guys, I mean, we took off, we got to the end of the runway, and he said, we're gonna do a vertical takeoff. So that's where you get to the end of the runway, and they turned that plane straight up, right toward God, everybody. I mean, they lit the afterburner, and the afterburner is that long fire tail that you see sometimes. You only see it at night. But there's so much fuel being spent when the afterburner is lit that if the afterburner was on the whole time, the plane could only stay in the air 15 minutes. That's how much fuel it spends. He said, we're going to get to the end of the runway. We're going to turn this thing straight toward heaven, light the afterburner, and we're going to pull 7 Gs. Now, a G is your body weight, so 7 times your body. My face was behind me, y'all, all right? So after a while, he said, you can fly the plane. I actually took the stick and I kind of eased it over one way and then eased it over the other. He goes, don't do that. Hit the thing. So I slammed it. We did barrel rolls and it was crazy. And I've got 30 seconds of video if you want to see it. Yes? Yeah, all right. Take a look, everybody. How about that? Isn't that great? All right. By the way, I learned a few things that day. One is that I'll never say never. Well, first of all, I'll always bring a barf bag. No, just kidding. I'll never say never, and I want to encourage you to do the same. Never say never. I decided that day I would dream bigger dreams. And I also decided that day that I'm going to say what I'm thinking. I'm going to say out loud what I'm dreaming for, because if you can't make it happen, there may be somebody around you who can help you make it happen, everybody. Seriously. So now I've all the time I share the things that I'm thinking about, even if I don't think they can happen. I share it with people. In fact, the opposite is true too. You got to be careful of sharing your dreams with some people, because they'll tell you you can't as well. In fact, we're trying to build this university right now. It's a one-of-a-kind university. In fact, the pilot on that plane went on to get his general star, has since retired from the Air Force and now leads. He's the vice president at our college. His best friend wrote the character curriculum for West Point, and he now leads the character pillar for our university that's training young leaders. And so General Ed Casey is with me right now. And by the way, somebody shouted out Maverick. His call name was Pinto, and so I needed one, so I named me Bean. Pinto Beans. Anyway, so there you go. But I was sharing my dream about this college with someone, and we're trying to raise actually $400 million. So I'm in this process right now, and it's happening. And this one lady says, well, I don't see how that's going to happen. And I turned to her and I said, well, I guess I won't be inviting you to be on my intercessory team either, so you got to be careful about that. But I want to share with you some things about dreams, okay? And these are very, very real. I'm going to give you a point. I'm going to give you a thought to make that point actually happen or change, and then I'm going to leave you with a question. So if you like stuff to write down, you're going to love the rest of this little message here. The first is, there are some people who actually have no dream. And what I mean by no dream, they're absolutely not dreaming, or there are people who have stopped dreaming, and the last 3 years has taken its toll on people's dreams. And so I'll just dedicate this part of this little talk to all of those of you in this room who have had dreams that you have allowed to die completely. And I would just say to you, it's time for you to dream again. John Maxwell, in his book, which you need to get, Put Your Dream to the Test, he says you got to make room for imagination. I love that word. He says imagination is the soil that brings the dream to life. And so you have to make room for that. And one of my favorite books that John has written, again, he's written 80-something books, but I have a few favorites. This one is probably in my top 3, and it's the book on your thinking. And I don't know that there's many things that can impact your life greater than how you think. And he gives 3 things that I want to give you there in thinking. And the first is, he says you have to find a plan to control your thoughts. And I want you to just think about that. Valerie just talked about our cell phones, our social media, and that's fine to have a principle that I don't want to be on that too much. But how many of you actually have a plan for how much of that you are on? And I just want you to think about that. Some of you are raising your hands because you do, and honestly, most people don't. So I actually have a time every day that my phone is plugged in and I walk away from it. I have a certain time every day that I unplug my phone and go back to it. And I never turn my phone back on in the morning until I've had my thinking time. For me, I'm a person of faith, of course, as a pastor, that I've had this quiet time, this time where I worship and pray and read the Bible and actually do some of my best thinking and studying. But I'm telling you, if you're going to be a dreamer, you're going to have a plan to control your thoughts. I call cell phones and social media weapons of mass distraction. And we have a whole lot of it going on right now. In fact, the news can be that for some of us. So the news distracts me so much because it's so emotional that I have stopped watching it and I only read it. And I've noticed that I can filter it better and get what I need out of it without seeing all the commentary. But just think about that. The second is you have to have a place to think your thoughts. And not only a place, but add in your notes the word time. You have to have a time. You have to have a time to think your thoughts, meaning I want you to think about when are you actually going to do it. And I will suggest to you, if you can't find a good time, that time is probably for most people going to be in the morning. Now, there are some night people that you ought to set aside the time because your greatest energies are in the evening. But I really want to encourage you guys to have a time that's set aside and watch what happens. Make an appointment with yourself. I don't know if you caught that in the last talk. Make an appointment with yourself. So if somebody says, hey, can you come to breakfast? I wish I could, but I have an appointment. But it's with you because you've set aside, that's my time. That's when my mind is thinking the best. I'm dreaming the best. And I do not give that away. The mornings are for me. And I spend at least 2 hours every day thinking, studying, creating, because I am going to have a place and a time to think my thoughts. And finally, you have to have a person who will stretch your thoughts. And this goes back to don't be the only one who's dreaming your dreams. You've got to have people in your life that you're sharing it with. One of my favorite John Maxwell stories, I think it would be one that he would tell you is one of our now, both of us, favorite stories, is we were playing golf up in the mountains of North Carolina where John has a home. And we were on hole number 2. And John said, pull the cart over. Now, I'm a very serious golfer. I'm a single-digit handicap. I take the game very seriously. John's actually a very good golfer. He'll tell you he's not, but he's actually a very good golfer. But he loves the fellowship and the conversation way more than the golf. And I'll have to be honest, I love the golf more than the fellowship. Anyway, so when I'm out there, I like to play. That's what the 19th hole is for, is all that conversation. Let's try to make a birdie here. So anyway, I'm locked in. I'm ready to go hit my second shot. In fact, I'd already hit the drive. It's out in the fairway. And we were pulling up to the balls, and there's nobody else on the course. And John says, pull over for a second. He says, I want to know something you're dreaming about that I could actually help you with. And my comment was, yeah, I'd love to share that with you sometime. I want to hit this ball right now. But anyway, he said, no, tell me right now. I want to know something that you're very passionate about that I could help you with. I said, well, John, I'm trying to build this little internship that we had built at our church that is, almost accidentally turned into this university college where we're trying to get accreditation, and we're trying to move it into a new facility because we have this really small building that nobody would really want to come to. And I'm dreaming about this. He goes, well, I'll give you a personal leadership day once a year. Don't pay me. I'll pay my own way. You sell out tickets. You raise money. I'll give you a personal leadership day, which by the way, we did that very next year. And every year now, we've done it for about 9 years straight. We were able to raise about $2 to $3 million a day. By the way, that's the value of the person that you're listening to right here, everybody. That's what people are willing to pay to be in the room with John. And then all of a sudden, just by that one conversation, our dream has grown. I got some B-roll. Check out the B-roll behind me. This is now what the university looks like that John has helped us with, because I found somebody who could stretch my thoughts. All right, everybody, are you listening to me? So if you have no dream, you need to get around the right people. You need to find the right place. You need to find the right time. You need to have the right plan to control your thoughts. And here's the question, if you're writing it down, and that is, what is competing with my ability to dream? What is competing? And you have to eliminate those distractions and the things that are keeping your dream from coming to pass. Here's the second one, and this one, don't take this one the wrong way, but the second one is a wrong dream. And a wrong dream isn't because it's necessarily bad. I'm not saying a bad dream. It can even be a good dream. It's just not the right one. Here's the way I say it. It's fun, but not fulfilling. And I would just want to say to everybody in the room that there is something you can chase, and I'm going to talk about it more in just a minute, that actually is way more meaningful. And I find too many people focused on, it's probably not this crowd, that are too focused on the wrong things. I love this quote by D.L. Moody. He said, "Our greatest fear should not be of failure, but of succeeding at something that really doesn't matter." I see all the phones up. Yeah, grab that. That's a great quote. Succeeding at something that really doesn't matter. And by the way, it's not bad to succeed at something that doesn't matter, because we still have to pay the bills. And by the way, your career and your calling doesn't have to be the same thing. It's always best when it can be. But a career gives you something to live on, while a calling gives you something to live for. And so here's the question that I would love for you to write down on this one, and that is, what can I do that brings true satisfaction? And I would love to just put that into the hearts of everyone here at Maxwell Leadership. I mean, the value of this company is not just us getting better or making money. That happens. We add value to ourselves, and we do add value toward others so that we can transform the lives of the people around us. It's always for a greater cause. Here's the third one, and that is a stale dream. So you have a dream that doesn't have enough fuel on the fire right now. And by the way, I'm probably not talking to the people in the room right now, because you're actually doing the thing that fixes this one. I think the secret to any time your dream starts to die out, and by the way, everything that you dream naturally dies out. In fact, let me say it this way. Never be frustrated when things aren't where you left it. Everything that matters has to have more fuel added to the fire. If you've ever sat in front of a fireplace and enjoyed the beauty of a beautiful fireplace on a winter day, you can't just sit there. Every once in a while, you have to go outside, grab a log, add a little fuel to the fire. And that's true of our marriages. That's true of our businesses. That's true of our dreams. I even tell our people, I said, it never bothers me that you're not doing what I told you to do last. That's my job. I'm here to keep reminding you and adding fuel to the fire. But for some of you, your dream has gotten stale. What do I do about that? Write this down. You have to do something radical to get it back. And radical, I mean, go to a conference. You're doing it today. For some of you, it's going to mean actually signing up for more of the personal growth plan that Maxwell Leadership has to offer. And you're going to think, well, my goodness, that's a whole lot of money, or that takes a whole lot of time to listen to all these lessons or to go through all these processes. But it's probably going to take something radical. I'm just going to warn you, it's not going to be easy. John says it this way: everything worthwhile. Got some Maxwell people in the room already, right? You know that. So you almost expect it to be difficult to a certain degree. So here's the question I'd love for you to write down, and that is, what do I need to do to wake up my dream? What can I do to add some fuel to that fire? And you probably will take something radical in order for that to happen. John introduced me to a friend of his who now has become a friend of mine, who's added so much fuel to the fire of this Highlands College that I am so enjoying building. But he invited me to someone who's already doing it at a higher level, Dr. Nito Cubain. And Dr. Nito Cubain is one amazing man. He's the president of High Point University. And my goodness, you just go to the campus and your jaw will be on the ground. It's wow factor all around. He's an amazing leader. But in order for me to be in a relationship with him and to have him mentor me in this area, honestly, it's taken more time, more money, more effort, but it's fuel to the fire. Sometimes you have to do something radical to get your dream back. Here's the fourth one. And the fourth one is a vague dream, meaning you have a dream, but it's not articulated enough. And I have done the study. I'm not really a researcher. I read other people's research. I'm not as smart as Patrick Lencioni and some of the other people on this stage. I read all the stuff they come up with. But I'll tell you, I have studied the fact that there is something in the psychology of writing things down. They don't really understand it. There's something about pen to paper. And I honestly think that our phones, and even some of the things that we do digitally, even if you're typing your notes right now, that's fine. It's working. But they have proven there's something about the psychology of actually writing something down pen to paper. In fact, you even retain more on a paper book than a digital book. I don't know why, but that's just the truth. But there's something about the paper. And I want to encourage every one of you, if you don't have a bucket list, in fact, if there's no other takeaway from this talk, then you do what John encouraged me to do back in 2008, and that is I am going to start articulating my dreams. By the way, that bucket list of 5 things now has 87 on them. 25 of them have come to pass already, and I look at it, I discipline myself to look at that bucket list once a month. And there's a bunch of thrill things on there, a bunch of fun things, a bunch of trip things, but there's a bunch of dreaming things that are meaningful, that matter to me and my family and my faith and the things that I believe in. And if you take nothing away from this talk other than the fact that I'm going to start writing down my dreams. In fact, I want to give you 24 hours to put at least 5, because that's what John did for me, all right? I want to give you 24 hours to put at least 5 things down on a bucket list and make them as specific as you can. Check out this quote by the English-born writer and novelist Michael Korda, who said, "Written goals have a way of transforming wishes into wants, can'ts into cans, dreams into plans, plans into reality. Don't just think it, ink it." I just love that quote. So I stole that line, and here's the question for us on this one. You everybody get a picture of that quote? That's a great quote. Go back to that one real quick. Does everybody get that one? All right, that's just a good one. So here's the question. Go ahead and put it on the screen now, guys. What have I been thinking that I need to start inking? What have I been thinking that I ought to start inking? By the way,
The best investment you can make as a leader is in yourself and your team. Join Maxwell Leadership for Day to Grow, a full-day conference in Orlando, Florida, featuring some of today's most sought-after experts and thought leaders.
I don't want to be a motivational speaker. I want to be a motivational teacher. You see, a motivational speaker makes you feel good, but the next day you don't know why. A motivational teacher makes you feel good, but the next day you know why, because they give you resources and tools and practice.
If you're passionate about personal growth, development, your team, and growing them, you do not want to miss Day to Grow.
Malcolm Gladwell has been called one of the 100 most influential people in the world by Time magazine. Since becoming a staff writer for The New Yorker in 1996, he has written 7 New York Times bestsellers, and in 2011, he was appointed to Canada's second highest order of honor. 4-time Olympian Shantae Lowe is a world record-holding high jumper and gold medalist who has inspired millions with her story of triumphing over adversity on platforms like ESPN and the Oprah Winfrey Network. Chris Robinson is an international speaker and executive coach who leads a team of more than 50,000 speakers, trainers, and coaches worldwide.
The masses lead lives of quiet desperation, but they go to the grave with their song inside. It is my vision that not a single person that can hear my voice goes to the grave with that song inside.
John Gordon has written 15 bestsellers, including The Energy Bus, The Power of Positive Leadership, and The Carpenter. His clients include Dell, Publix, Southwest Airlines, and several NFL, NBA, and MLB coaches and championship teams. Michael Jr. brings laughter and encouragement to audiences all over the world as he inspires audiences to discover and activate their purpose.
So it started out, people would ask weird questions. Michael Jr., what should I do here? What should I do there? And I realized we're asking the wrong question, because they're asking what, but the question they really should be asking is why, because when you understand your why, you have more options for what, but your why never changes.
International speaker Valerie Burton is the founder of the Coaching and Positive Psychology Institute, as well as a best-selling author of 13 books coaching women and ambitious individuals toward their best lives.
If we want to be resilient, we need to be as supportive of ourselves as we are of the people we care about. You see, we are often far more kind to our friends and to our family members than we are to ourselves.
Serial entrepreneur and business expert Brandon Dawson serves as CEO and managing partner of Grant Cardone's business consulting firm Cardone Ventures. He has spent the last 30 years in the business space, starting, scaling, and selling businesses, and now helps organizations of all sizes reach their goals.
Come and see us on Day to Grow. I will promise you this. You come and bring your team, and at the end of the day, you'll come up and shake my hand and say, one of the best days I've ever invested in for myself and for my team. I'll see you there.
positive thinking, Colorado resident Valerie Burton has been researching that very question for over 20 years. Focusing on the field of applied positive psychology, the speaker has written 13 books, including Let Go of the Guilt, It's About Time, and Successful Women Think Differently. A Maxwell leadership coach and thought leader, Valerie is here to share her research of resilience, courage, and positive emotion and encourage you to find your purpose. With her help, change is just around the corner. Please welcome Valerie Burton.
Hey, oh my gosh. I'm going to do it back to you. Thank you. Oh my goodness, it is so good to be with you this afternoon. Has this been amazing or what? All right, so I'm thinking that at this point, some of you are taking a lot of notes. How many of you have run out of space for taking your notes? Yeah, it's so exciting when you have a day like this to stop and think about what it is that you're doing, where you're going next, get clarity about those goals. But I want to coach you this afternoon if you're open to it. I want to coach you because I'm guessing that there are some goals that you have that have felt elusive. Like you've had them for a long time. You're not sure why you seem not to quite get to the goal. Am I talking to anybody? You get frustrated with yourself. And there's, I think, a reason for that we don't talk about often enough. All right, so I'm going to talk to you for the little time that we have about closing what I call your growth gaps. Because I really believe that's the key to you reaching your biggest goals. Here's the thing. We are taught to set goals in a way that often sets us up for failure and for guilt. If any of you in here have ever felt guilty because you weren't reaching goals, anybody in here good at beating themselves up? Oh, y'all are really good at that, yeah. I wrote a whole book called Let Go of the Guilt because I was so good at beating myself up, right? So often, what we do when we don't reach our goals is we go, what's wrong with me? Why can't I get this done? I'm looking at so-and-so, and they seem to be excelling, and maybe I'm just lazy. Maybe am I talking to anybody? And we can be extremely hard on ourselves. But here's the thing. We so often need to ask ourselves first, what's the vision? Where is it that I'm going? But to not forget that how far we can go, whether or not you reach that vision, is determined by how much you are willing to grow. And we leave out the critical piece, which is that you don't just need performance goals, you need growth goals. And that's what I want to talk to you about today, because I think a lot of us don't have growth goals. We talk about our performance goals. Your performance goals are those measurable things. We all have them, okay? It's how much you want to weigh, how much you want to make, what promotion you want to get, what business you want to launch, what relationship you want to have. How many of you have those goals? And when you have those goals, it's really clear. Those are great goals. But what is it that will actually power those goals? So just take a breath for a moment. A nice deep one. Some of you haven't taken a deep breath all day. You're on the edge of your seat. And close your eyes for a moment. And I want you to just picture. I can see you. Close your eyes. And I want you to just picture yourself in the vision that you have. It might be a vision that's close in. Maybe it's 6 months from now. It could be a year from now. It could be 6 years from now. But I want you to picture yourself there. I want you to picture how it feels when you wake up in the morning. I want you to picture where you're going, who you are with, what kind of work it is that you're doing, who you're impacting. What do you look like as you go throughout your day? What's different from the life you're in right now? Can you see it? Can you feel it, actually? I feel you all seeing your vision right now. It's just a peace and a calm. Some of you look really calm, like, yeah, I'm going to get there. Go ahead and open your eyes. And some of you look like you were having a hard time seeing the vision. You were squinting a bit, going, Valerie, I can't see it, right? But here's the thing. When you get clarity of vision, you can then plug into that vision your most meaningful goals. Your performance goals, those things that you can easily measure, those things that people quickly understand, those are your vision. But your growth goals are your engine. I'm going to say that again. Performance goals are the vision, but growth goals are the engine. It's what is going to get you there. Now, I've had a lot of what I like to call growth gaps over the years, and every single one of us have them. When you think about where you are with your vision, the question is, where do you keep getting stuck? Is it the fear that pops up? Is it a relationship issue that pops up? Is it a confidence issue? Is it in your leadership? Wherever you get stuck, that's your growth gap. And if you understand your growth gap, you can get very intentional about closing the gap between where you are and where you really want to be. I've had a lot of growth gaps over the years, so I'm going to share a few with you, see if any of these kind of connect. When I first discovered my purpose, which is inspiring others to live more fulfilling lives, and to do that through writing and speaking, I began trying to write a book. Now, I tried writing a book on 3 separate occasions. The first time I thought I was going to write books, I was about 22, and I started writing, and I ran out of words. John, I ran out at about 10,000 words. That's all the wisdom I had at 22. It was not enough for a book. I stopped. At 25, I got smart. I got a book about how to find a literary agent. I found a literary agent. I wrote my first book proposal. I actually got a book deal with a small publisher. And then the book deal fell through. The publisher had financial issues. The third time, I had discovered my purpose. I had had an epiphany about why I was here. And purpose fuels your passion. It fuels your perseverance. So once I knew what I was meant to be doing, inspiring others, the words just flowed. But here's the thing. When I first, on that third attempt, started writing, I got stuck. But I kept telling people I was writing a book. Any of you keep talking about the business that you're starting or the book that you're writing? Anyone in here do that? You have goals. You've told everybody about your goals. Your friends ask about the goals. And you go, oh, yeah, I'm working on that. Well, one day, at that time I was in PR, and I had a client that was a radio network, a CBS radio network in Dallas. And I stopped by to do something, and I ran into one of my friends. She was a morning host on the Smooth Jazz station. And I popped my head in the studio, and Lynn said, oh, hey, Val, how's your book writing going? And I was like, oh, it's going great. Yeah, I should have the book out by the end of this year. And y'all, I knew I was lying. I mean, I was just lying to my friend. And I got in the car and I felt convicted. Like, I sat there and I said, you're not writing a book. Why do you keep telling people you're writing a book? You're just lying. When are you going to write this book? Like, I was really beating myself up, but in a good way. Because I had a heart-to-heart with myself that day. I said, either start writing the book or shut up about writing the book. My frustration actually fueled my turnaround. I had a growth gap. My growth gap was not only procrastination, because I am a recovering procrastinator. I know I've written 13 books, but each time I'm in recovery from procrastination, okay? I wait until the very last minute, and then, when I can't wait anymore, everything comes out. But it was also discipline. The discipline to sit down day after day and write. And isn't that often what stops us? My growth gap for writing a book was discipline. In relationships, I had a growth gap. After going through divorce and knowing that I still had a desire in my heart for a happy marriage, for motherhood, I had a growth gap. Because I had gone through a divorce, my parents had divorced when I was in college, I had told myself I'm just not that good at this. I'm not good at choosing. Maybe I'm just not meant to be in relationships. Maybe I can't have this. Has anyone ever talked to yourself in a way that you say, because of my past, I don't know how to do this, therefore maybe I'm doomed in this area. Maybe I can't have what's in my heart to have. And that's what I was saying to myself. And my growth gap there was around relationships. I had a fixed mindset. I had decided that where I was today was where I was always going to be stuck. And if I didn't close that growth gap through therapy, through reflection, through coaching, by stretching myself, I today would not be happily married, a mom, and a bonus mom, because I would have stayed stuck with that growth gap. I had a growth gap in my finances. Anyone ever had a growth gap with your finances? Yeah, I had a big growth gap. I was in my 20s and, really starting to get into this motivation thing, and I remember specifically deciding I was going to read up on how to develop some financial freedom. And so I picked up a book by Susie Orman. And it was a really great book, but one of the things Susie suggested was that I get all of my credit card statements out and my student loans and what I owned on my car, and let me tell you, it was not an exciting process. So what I did was I took Susie's book and I put it back on the shelf, because it was not what I was wanting to do. I put it back on the shelf. A few months later, I felt again convicted. I was like, I need to do something. I don't like being in debt. It feels like a burden on my shoulders. And so I remember the day that I decided I was going to do something different. And on that particular day, because I didn't know how to change my circumstances outside of the stuff that I was reading, I decided I would pray. I said, the quickest way to probably solve this problem would be to just ask God. I've finally added up the debt like Susie asked me to, and if I could just ask him, perhaps he'll just send me the $72,546 that I need to pay these debts. And so what I did was I got really serious. When you get serious about a prayer, you get on your knees. You don't just do this, you clasp your hands and you clasp them tight. And then you close your eyes tightly. And that's exactly what I did. And I started praying. I said, Lord, listen. I've been reading what Susie Orman said. And Susie says that I need to get out of debt. She also said that I need to get better at negotiating. She also said that, maybe I am selling myself short. So I'm telling the Lord exactly what it is that I have learned. Because if I've learned it, maybe you can send me the money. So I said, Lord, if you could just send me about $72,000, I promise I will stay out of the mall. I won't get in any more debt. And then the thing is, I continued to pray. But I started to get indignant. And I said, Lord, I've been really trying to do what you've asked me to do. I mean, why am I not making more money at this point anyway? And so, this prayer was kind of going downhill. And suddenly in my spirit, I heard, I didn't tell you to get in all of that debt. And I thought, I've crossed the line. I think I might be in trouble here. And what I heard was, I'm going to show you how to get out, and I'm going to show you how to stay out, but I'm not going to send you the money you're asking for. You are going to have to exercise the discipline and have the courage to do what you need to do. I had to close my growth gap. What was my growth gap with finances? It was insecurity. It was emotional spending. And some of you are sitting here going, oh, she was an emotional spender. Maybe those were insecurities. She needed the right kind of car and the right kind of neighborhood. But some of you don't spend emotionally, you eat emotionally. Yes? Maybe that's your growth gap. We have to be honest about what our growth gaps are. I had a growth gap when it came to joy. I had accomplished so much of what I wanted to accomplish. I had started a purposeful business. I had written the books. I was married. I finally, after 40, got to be a mom. And for some reason, I wasn't feeling happy. And I started asking myself, what is this about? All I felt every time I left to go on a speaking engagement was guilt. Guilt. It was stealing my joy. It was my growth gap. And I began peeling back the layers. I actually created a whole coaching process when I wrote Let Go of the Guilt. And I'm just going to read a little piece here to you because I think it's essential, because so many of us have growth gaps and we never stop. And we never reflect. And we never say, where do I keep getting stuck? And what is my opportunity for growth right here? Because if you don't ask yourself that question, the goal you've yet to reach is not going to be reached. You have an invitation today to choose personal growth as the engine to get you to your vision. But the question is, how do you need to grow in order to get there? All right. I turned 50 in January, and now I need reading glasses, and now I'm on stage with no reading glasses. So let's see how this goes. All right. Here's the thing. As ridiculous as it may sound, we can become so comfortable with the absence of happiness that when there is no reason to be unhappy, we manufacture one. Worry. Thank you, John. I don't know how these are going to look on me, but since you offered, if y'all promise not to laugh, I'm going to put them on. All right. Good? Y'all are lying to me. These don't look great. But thank you. I appreciate your enthusiasm. All right. We can become so comfortable with the absence of happiness that when there's no reason to be unhappy, we manufacture one. Worry, discontentment, envy, blame, drama, and yes, guilt. So when I say guilt is safe and happiness is a risk, I am saying that guilt moves your emotions from positive to negative to a place that may feel more familiar, more comfortable. And it's up to you to decide when you're ready to release the false guilt and reclaim your joy. So often, we don't even recognize where the growth is, but if you get quiet enough and you're willing to coach yourself, what you will learn is that oftentimes just a little bit of growth will catapult you to that next level if you are willing. And I was willing. I was tired. I realized I had had a vision since 20 that I would have a successful business, that I would be an author, that I would have a family. And then I finally, after 20-something years, got to that point, and I was allowing guilt to steal my joy. I knew that growth gap had to be closed. But here's the thing about our vision. Closing the gap isn't about knowing what steps to take to get to your vision, but it's about whether you will actually take those steps when it's time. I'm going to say that again. Closing the gap isn't about knowing what steps to take, but whether you will actually take those steps when it's time. When you have decided that you're closing that fitness growth gap, and you set your alarm clock for 5:30 a.m. and you put the shoes right next to your alarm clock, and the alarm clock goes off, you have a choice, don't you? And how many of you have made the choice to hit the snooze button as soon as that happens, right? It's a growth gap. And so making the decision, how do I close that? When I wake up, how could I say something different to myself? You know what I started saying to myself? Just get one foot on the floor and then move the other one and the other one. Then brush your teeth. By then you will be awake. Put your tennis shoes on and go work out. Over time, when you keep doing that, you actually change your habits, you change your patterns, and you close the gap. And before you know it, the things that were difficult to do now become your new normal.
The best investment you can make as a leader is in yourself and your team. Join Maxwell Leadership for Day to Grow, a full-day conference in Orlando, Florida, featuring some of today's most sought-after experts and thought leaders.
I don't want to be a motivational speaker. I want to be a motivational teacher. You see, a motivational speaker makes you feel good, but the next day you don't know why. A motivational teacher makes you feel good, but the next day you know why, because they give you resources and tools and practice.
If you're passionate about personal growth, development, your team, and growing them, you do not want to miss Day to Grow.
Malcolm Gladwell has been called one of the 100 most influential people in the world by Time magazine. Since becoming a staff writer for The New Yorker in 1996, he has written 7 New York Times bestsellers, and in 2011, he was appointed to Canada's second highest Order of Honor. 4-time Olympian Shantae Lowe is a world record-holding high jumper and gold medalist who has inspired millions with her story of triumphing over adversity on platforms like ESPN and the Oprah Winfrey Network. Chris Robinson is an international speaker and executive coach who leads a team of more than 50,000 speakers, trainers, and coaches worldwide.
The masses lead lives of quiet desperation, but they go to the grave with their song inside. It is my vision that not a single person that can hear my voice goes to the grave with that song inside.
John Gordon has written 15 bestsellers, including The Energy Bus, The Power of Positive Leadership, and The Carpenter. His clients include Dell, Publix, Southwest Airlines, and several NFL, NBA, and MLB coaches and championship teams. Michael Jr. brings laughter and encouragement to audiences all over the world as he inspires audiences to discover and activate their purpose.
So it started out, people would ask weird questions. Michael Jr., what should I do here? What should I do there? And I realized we're asking the wrong question. Because they're asking what, but the question they really should be asking is why. Because when you understand your why, you have more options for what, but your why never changes.
International speaker Valerie Burton is the founder of the Coaching and Positive Psychology Institute, as well as a best-selling author of 13 books coaching women and ambitious individuals toward their best lives.
If we want to be resilient, we need to be as supportive of ourselves as we are of the people we care about. You see, we are often far more kind to our friends and to our family members than we are to ourselves.
Serial entrepreneur and business expert Brandon Dawson serves as CEO and managing partner of Grant Cardone's business consulting firm Cardone Ventures. He has spent the last 30 years in the business space, starting, scaling, and selling businesses, and now helps organizations of all sizes reach their goals.
Come and see us on Day to Grow. I will promise you this. You come and bring your team, and at the end of the day, you'll come up and shake my hand and say, one of the best days I've ever invested in for myself and for my team. I'll see you there.